Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Talk Freelance to Me podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Cisneros Mejia, and today I am super excited to introduce you to someone that I really admire. I love her content, her messaging, the wonderful Mandy Ellis. Mandy, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here and I can't wait to talk more about freelance writing.
Oh my goodness. Like I said before, I was watching your YouTube videos about just some of your insights really from everything that you've learned from your decades working in freelance, from working with community, other writers all around the world. You've done digital products and have events and groups and things. It's so awesome and inspiring to see everything that you've achieved in your freelance career. But take us back a little bit. How did you get started in this crazy world of freelance?
So my story, I think, is like other people's where it took me, so I'm a millennial, and it took me 10 months to get my first full-time job. I submitted hundreds and hundreds of applications. This was during the Great Recession. And I got my first job. And a year later, they were like, hey, we're going to lay you off. And I was like, oh shit. So I was like, I just got this thing. And
Yeah.
so they were like, by the end of we're going to cut your hours. And by the end of the month, you're going to be laid off. And I was like, I always wanted to be a freelance writer. I had a creative writing fiction degree. And that's what I wanted to do. So I was like, oh, I'll just get on the platforms. And so that turned out, that's a different story we can talk about later. But I got on the platforms and it turned out by the end of the month, they were like, hey, just kidding. We're going to keep you on. And I was like, thanks for the false alarm, but I'm going to solve this. So I had the basically hot poker in the butt to like, hey, you need to get started on this. And then basically, I think it was 15 to 18 months later, I left for full time. So that was like June 2024. So, or 2024, 2014. And like a lot of writers where you're like, hey, I want to do this writing thing. And then some kind of event kicks it off. You're going to lose your job. The publication dies, something happens. And you're like, oh, I'll just get on the platforms. And then I had my identity stolen and I worked $25 for 1,500 words. And I had someone who was like, hey, you charge $30 an hour. Would you work at $15 an hour? And I was like, sure. And it was a whole thing. But now that I've eaten all the fruit from the dum dum tree, I actually built a business I really love.
I love it. Man, what a story. And I feel like so much resonates like with me with your story because we've been through it. Us
Mhm.
millennials, I don't know if I'm a zennial
Yes.
or what, but we have been through it. And I think to some effect, maybe it gives us a little bit of resilience, like with everything that we're seeing now, as we've seen this show before.
Yep.
We've seen, and so I think I know that those challenges came early in our careers, but I think
Yeah.
we're better for it. And thinking about that a little bit, we were talking before we got started just about a lot of the sentiment that's out there right now about freelance, about the nature of the industry, about where it's going in the future. You work with a lot of freelancers as a freelance coach, especially with freelancers who are doing well. I think six-figure freelancers, which is so
Mhm.
cool. What do you see that freelancers get wrong about the industry and when they're trying to find those good clients?
Yeah. So just what we were talking about earlier is when you get on LinkedIn and you
Hmm.
see a bunch of people panicking about not having work, there's a couple things at play here. So we've seen this story before. This happens all the time. And there's two paths. One is, oh my God, there's no working clients for anybody and everything's burning down. The other one is, oh my gosh, everyone has working clients and I don't. Now, what am I doing wrong? Everything's terrible. That's the two paths we often take when we get on LinkedIn and everyone's panicking. But what I want you to decompress here is that the successful freelance writers don't have time most of the time to be on LinkedIn. You will see successful freelance writers on LinkedIn, but most of the people making six figures or whatever, they're not posting on LinkedIn. Like they're doing the work. They have deadlines, they have clients, they are prioritizing the needle moving activities. So that's the first thing is really pay attention to remember that there is a very large silent freelance writing community making big bucks
Yes.
from great clients who are not on LinkedIn, like talking a lot or taking up space. So that's the first thing. I always try to remember that because when I would panic about my business, and then I'd realize like, why are all these people make money? Like I would go look at other freelancers and I would talk to them and I'd be like, how are they making money? And then I'm like, oh, like my perception is off. Like my perception
Mm,
from looking at the panic is off because all these people are like, I'm working. Like I don't have time for that social media
right.
stuff right now. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Second thing is I often end up talking to writers and students who are doing spray and pray. So they're like,
Mm,
just send the LOIs, the letters of introduction to business clients or pitches to magazines, And they're not actually thinking about who is this for? Should I narrow down these clients? Should I think about some data and information that can help me really, I call it the pre-filtering process, but really filter down who I'm sending these LOIs and pitches to, so then I can get better results because I already know I'm reaching this better tier rather than just spraying and being like, oh my God, send everything out and hope it works. And the other things, I have a couple things in here that I wrote down just to make sure that we talk about them. So I think a lot of times too is the feast and famine comes from not feeding the marketing beast. So
Mm.
I call it feeding the marketing Tamagotchi. That thing needs to be fed all the time. You got to take care of it. I think that that was a big mistake I made for at least half of my career, was not doing sending the LOIs, 50 to 75 LOIs to these selected, how to look at these clients and pick the right ones every month, and really doing that, filling that pipeline consistency. And then if you don't, you ride this big feast and famine roller coaster, and it ends up being this big drama llama cycle that you don't really have to go through. So instead of looking at who are my best clients, what is the data, what's their revenue ranges, what niches are they in, what projects are they working on, what topics are we typically writing about, what titles am I typically reaching out to, what's my LOI or pitch response rate? Like, they miss all the data and then they ride feast and famine because they're like, I need work right now. Oh my God. Instead of looking at like the things in their business will tell them the answer. There is data there. I think that's something that oftentimes gets missed, is this gold nugget data that's like literally in front of you. It is literally in front of you. If you just dig into yes, it's a little 95 to have the spreadsheet, or a 98, but I think the spreadsheet, it just gives you a very clear look of, here's my best clients. Why are they answering? Why are we doing this? What did they say on the call? What can I gather from this data to then inform my process, so I'm not like out there spraying and praying or just hoping something works out. Like, I have this very curated plan for my specific business. The next thing is, I know you were going to ask me about red light clients, and this is the big difference between, I call them red lights, but red flag and green flag clients, is they totally speak different languages. They can't have a
Mm.
conversation with each other. So if
Yeah.
your red light client gets on a call with a green light client, they can't talk to each other. The green light clients speak a totally different language. And this is something where, like, you have to speak that language in your LinkedIn and your website. And writers are like so afraid of being like, I have to be professional. I have to I'm so insecure. I have so much self-doubt. Please just take me seriously as a writer. Instead of being like, how do I talk the same talk as my ideal clients? Like, how do I speak their same language and attract them through my website and LinkedIn? And I call this the tuning fork technique. But you're on the same level as them. And red light clients, like, they reject each other. So if you write for green light clients, if you understand how to actually do that, you reject those red light clients. And that's something where writers will be like, I don't understand why I'm attracting all these tire kickers and I'm doing this. It's like, you're speaking the wrong language. So there's a lot of these interconnected problems, and a lot of them have to do with marketing or understanding your clients, where writers just miss some things that are in front of them. Like, that data would tell you a lot. Your client calls will tell you a lot about what are your best clients saying to put in your copy, and how do you actually get out of feast and famine. You have to feed the beast, right? Feed the marketing Tamagotchi. So yeah, I think there's a bunch of things, especially when there's a lot of panic, that people forget about. Is like, sometimes that answer is like right in front of you in the data in your business.
Mm. Gold. Drop the mic. So good, Mandy. So
I'm glad
good.
I took notes.
Yes, yes, we need all of that highlighted. Everybody needs to get the show notes, get the transcript, and paste that. Paste that on your laptop, or get a piece of tape and put it on your monitor. I think some of the things that I really enjoyed, really appreciate about what you're bringing out, is just that intention that's required.
Hmm.
The difference is, I think, us being in charge of our business, of treating what we're doing as a business and not being passive, not accepting just anything, any person, with a pulse and a dollar. That's the recipe for burnout, for unhappiness, that we actually have
Hmm.
to be business owners, look at our data, think about how we're messaging about ourselves, about our services, or about the transformation that we can offer clients, and taking control of that. And spray and pay and play, that's the opposite, right? It's being in a position of desperation and that insecurity, where we're just hoping someone will ask us to dance. And this is so different, because
Yes.
what you're talking about is identifying, who do I want to dance with? And I'm going to go after that person, or that
Yeah.
client. That is super, super empowering, I think, too, if we can give ourselves the permission to do that, or the reminder to do that, to assume that role, because no one else is going to do it. We're freelancers. It's just us usually. So I really appreciate that. That's
I
awesome.
I love that you said transformation. Like if we could convince more writers to understand their unique skills that provide the
Yeah.
transformation for their clients, magic will happen. If we could, that's one of my things is I don't want everybody to be a mini version of someone else. I want you to be more
Yes.
like yourself. And the more you are yourself, the more you can take those unique skills, and that provides a very clear transformation for your clients. It all comes together. It all makes sense together if you just look at it from the point of view as like it's not desperation, perspiration. It's a transformation I'm providing for my clients. And I'm actually giving them like I have this stat that I looked up the other day that was the average content marketing project makes 1 million in revenue. What
Wow.
percentage of that million are you getting? It's not going to be 1%. So like you need to understand that transformational value, like just the average, that's not even the good ones. The average content marketing project makes 1 million in revenue. So if you can just remember that and be like, what unique skills am I bringing to this project, or maybe this niche, or what is my knowledge, experience, expertise, skills help my clients get the transformation they want? That's the key. That transformation is the key.
Wow, that's powerful. And that transformation that does level the playing field, I think, or it levels
Yes.
kind of these dynamics of power with the client is that we're coming to them having done our homework and well aware of the value that we bring, the value that we can share with them and making their job easier, helping them achieve whatever their objectives or goals are. And that's way different than some of the other, I feel like themes that I've seen or like
Mm-hmm.
the vibe and some of these spaces like on LinkedIn and others where it's just very much of everybody's freaking out and looking at each other and maybe being feeling sad, that they're not because there's other people for everyone that's saying the sky is falling. There's other people who are saying, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I made more money than
Yes.
ever. And then a lot of times I'm sure writers that you work with too, because I've
Yep.
I've heard of some in my network are just they feel bad. What's wrong with me? What have I don't understand. But we're looking in the wrong place. We're looking
Right.
at our peers instead of what you're saying, which is looking in our own business and taking note of the
Mm-hmm.
clues. What is our business telling us? So good,
Yes.
Mandy.
Yeah, but also it's like there's a guilt too. This is a weird thing that
Mm,
happens with writers. If they make six figures, like my most successful writers are not posting, "Hey, I'm having the best year ever. I hit six
mm,
figures. I left my full-time job in 9 months. I did this thing. I replaced my full-time income." Like they're not talking about that. There's a guilt of,
yeah.
"Hey, if I'm doing well, is that taking away from somebody else?" And I think
Mm,
that goes back to like really working on that abundance mindset. And I think
yes.
about that is the way I think about it is it's like sunlight. You and I actually can't go outside and get more than everybody else. It just is available, right? Like
Yeah.
that was the best example I've ever heard of it is it's just sunlight. So it's not that we have to feel guilty for excelling when other people are struggling. And I know that maybe this is true in your business. Like my best years were during like some of the quote like worst times, and some of my
Yeah.
worst years were during the best times. And I
Right?
had people who I had freelance friends who were booked so solid during COVID that they were farming out tons of work. My work got shut off for like months. I forget, it was like
Yeah.
3 months, maybe four, but then it picked right back up and I was super busy. It's this weird kind of thing where like it's really not about the outside stuff. It's remembering there is working clients. I don't need a lot. I need 2 to 5, 3 to 5 clients. I don't need tens of thousands. And there's a lot of we don't have to have guilt about doing well just because other people are struggling. There's this we actually if you can help the people who are struggling, definitely try to do that. Recommend work, referrals, give them advice, whatever. But I also think that we should have this remember there's this little ecosystem that happens where some people do well, some people aren't doing well, but it is a ride. You have to ride the ride sometimes. Like we've been here before, right? We've been through this kind of cycle of up and down and panic with freelance writing before. People have done well, people have not done well. It's about what you and I talked about is like solving that ever-changing puzzle. That's part of the ride.
Absolutely. I love that you said ride. I live here in Florida, and sometimes I tell my husband that I'm riding the wave because
Yep.
when the right wave comes, and I can't talk right now. Got to ride the wave, got to surf
Yep.
because you don't know when the next one is going to come. And I know that sounds maybe like scarcity mindset, but just understanding that there's ebbs and flows,
Yes.
that your ebbs and flows might be different than someone else's, that there really are no rules to any of this. They certainly freelance. I've never found it to stay nice and neat in these guardrails. It just
Not
doesn't.
for, yeah,
So,
not for me either. Like I've the ebb and flow thing is a natural part of business. Like it's
mhm.
just as you evolve as a writer, you're going to target different projects, you're going to try different things. It would be really uncommon for someone to write only blog posts for 20 years. That just
Right.
it or only this. For people change their business, and that's part of the ebb and flow too. Is if you change your business, now you got to figure out, okay, what's the next part of this? What's the next piece of the puzzle? And I feel like the ebb and flow is a natural part of being an evolving writer. It's not wrong, it's just a natural piece of the puzzle.
So cool. So cool. I know you talked a moment ago about some of your best years were years that other people weren't doing so well and vice versa. And I've also heard you talk about niches and how there's really no rules when it comes to that either. I know that you've done a lot with tech, like property tech,
Mhm.
hospitality tech, I think I heard, and then also SaaS. How did you decide that those were niches that you wanted to work in? And how can newer freelancers who are listening to this figure out where to plant their flag? Where should they get started?
Yeah. So I started with straight food and travel. That's what I
Mm,
knew. That's like what I did. And so I started there and I guess it evolved organically. So for me, I had an editor who was like, "Hey, do you want to write about real estate?" And I was like, "Sounds good." So I started writing about real estate. I fell in love with it. And then that led to me starting to see this thing called prop tech. And I was like, "What's that?" And it was emerging. And so that I was like, I should start targeting clients here. And so that kind of grew naturally. And hospitality tech came from, I was writing for working with restaurants doesn't quite, they don't have a ton of money, but they're definitely using these tech products, these SaaS and hospitality tech products. So I realized the content that I would write for this magazine is the exact same thing that I can write for this client and get paid a lot more money to do it. It's the exact same stuff I would get published in a magazine and get paid double or more to do it. And so I started making kind of these connections between my magazine work and these kind of natural movements of like prop tech growing. And then I was when I first early in my career, I burned out really well, not early, I guess it was 2018. I burned out really bad. So I
mm,
worked every single day from April to September. I had 2 days off and I took 1 week off. And then slept 13 hours a night for 3 weeks and took 3 months off because it was awful. It was awful. And I was working
yeah.
10 to 15-hour days from April to September. And in that thing, I realized, oh, this is not working. So that led me to what I teach my students, which is cake and icing. It's a cake and icing niches strategy. So I think about it as like there are cake niches, and these cake niches, they have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of clients. There are a ton of them. They're a lot of them are things that people don't even think about, like veterinary SaaS or vet tech, or there's the big ones, right? Like IoT. But travel and food, those can be cake niches. But these cake niches, they typically have somewhere, I like raise the number a little bit. It's 20 million to 80 million ish in revenue or funding. You're typically looking at Series B or Series C and beyond startups. You're looking for kind of mid-sized companies. These are places that typically continue on. They're typically businesses that are on the edge of growth. And then you have icing companies. They make somewhere around 10 to 20 million, maybe a little bit less, or they might be something where you can do good work, but there's just not a lot of volume. So it could be like gardening, or it could be like adventure travel, or it could be something like sustainable farming. And what you do here is you find this natural balance, like you're picking niches between, because I knew when I was working with magazines and working in certain niches, I was like, this is not sustainable. Like this is not going to work. So
Right.
I started realizing the revenue ranges connected to like how many companies there are to make a list to send LOIs. And you balance this cake and icing so that you're like, okay, all these things I'm interested in, but I now have this good balance of like things that make money, things that feed my writer's soul, things that
Yes.
are creative, things that are interesting to me, but maybe not as interesting as writing about gardening, but I still love it and I still make more money. So for me, burning out led me to that kind of balance in the niches. So for me, I feel like niches aren't forever. They're just something as a starting point to give you direction. Because when you're starting as a freelance writer, you're like, what am I doing? So I always ask the question, like, if you're a generalist, like, who are you targeting? If you're a generalist, you don't have any niches, like, where are you going? And it's really hard to answer that question. But if you pick a few niches and you just get started and you learn the process of what does this client look like? What's their revenue? Like, who am I reaching out to? What's the title? What niche are they in? Like, you get that data, then you can start evolving that process for other niches because you know the process now. So if you start with an industry or a niche, then you have at least a process that you can repeat for other things to say, oh, I noticed my highest response rate and my best clients are in SaaS, but I'm also getting, let's say, 5 grand a year writing about gardening for these places. So that's a good balance of, let's say I make 60 grand writing for SaaS, prop tech, and hospitality tech, and I make 5 grand from this icing thing. I get to combine all my different likes and interests. And the other thing too is I think a lot of people think the tech stuff is like very different. It's not. You're writing for like usually regular people, unless you're doing like DevOps or something really complicated. But usually you're writing for regular people about how to use this thing, right? Hospitality
Mm.
tech is like, how do we tell a restaurant owner or someone who works at the front desk of a hotel how to use a point of sale system like Square? Like, how do we, it's a regular person. Or how do we like it explain to someone like a location and what they might be able to do at a smart hotel, which would be an article you could write for any magazine. So I think the idea here is it's not so much techie, but there are certain data points, and you usually can write very similar content that you would for a magazine for these companies.
That's so cool. I love this concept of cake and icing. It sounds delicious.
It is
And
delicious.
and
Yes.
way more
Yes.
sustainable when you get to do the things. So you mentioned content that feeds your writer's soul. And I think that
Yeah.
that is so that's missing sometimes. I feel like in these
Hmm.
conversations that we see on LinkedIn or in other virtual
Yep.
water coolers is it's all about money and money and money. And we need that. We cannot
Yeah.
ignore
Yeah.
that. We need to look at our revenue and our profit and things like that.
Yep.
But that's, I feel like if I, any writer that I talk to, the vast majority, I feel like studied literature or English or journalism like me or
Yep.
whatever. We all have that love of storytelling, of communication.
Yes.
It's not all for us, for a lot of us, I feel like about just about the money. We're in this for a specific reason because that's what we like to do. We're curious people. We like to
Hmm.
communicate. We like to make the connections, synthesize information, translate it in different ways for whoever we're trying to reach. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about that icing.
Yeah.
So I really
Yeah. But
love that, Mandy.
it's also the storytelling. Like,
Yeah.
we could talk about AI. Like, I have seen so much more of a focus on storytelling now
Mm.
with all this AI content coming out. It's that's what we're doing. That's what we're good at. Go tell the
Yeah.
stories, right? Like,
Yes.
it's that's the important piece is like it's not a tech company. It's tell the story. Tell the story.
Mm.
Like, I
Mhm.
think those kind of evergreen blog posts or those kind of like more generic kind of copy or the things that AI puts out is it's not, it doesn't connect with people through the story. They can't tell the story. They can't put together, hey, I ate all the fruit from the dum dum tree and I burned out and I made all these mistakes. It can't do that. And I
Yeah.
feel like there has been a bigger push into storytelling over the last maybe even year or two with all the AI content. So that's what we want to do. Tell more stories. Go do that. Find the people telling the stories and go work with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nobody ever says when they're a kid, hey, mommy, read me a white paper. It's
Yeah.
always, mommy, read me a story. Daddy, read me a story. It's
Yeah.
never, daddy, read me a brochure.
Oh,
So
yep.
we need to just understand that that's where we shine and
Mhm.
to be better at that, to revisit those things. I think that's how we differentiate ourselves. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Really cool. I was looking at your website and noting like you've worked with some really cool brands like Costco. I'm a big Costco fan, Condé Nast
Love Costco.
Traveler, Forbes. These are like household names that you've contributed to along the way. How did you get connections with some of these big brands? How did you also build that credibility with them where they kept coming back to you and giving you more stories?
Yeah. So this is something where I think it's part of it is persistence. So Costco was really early in my journey, and that was like the easiest, most fun thing I've done. It was $1 a word, and it was for their Costco Connection magazine. I think they still pay $1, if not
Yeah.
more. And that was like reaching out. I sent them an LOI pitch hybrid, which is basically like part of your LOI plus a few headlines. Hey, does this work for you? And they were like, here's our little magical guide on what we're looking for. And I was like, okay, they still send that out. So that was like straight pitch the magazine. Costco and Costco Connection is fun to do. I think Costco does do other things like white papers and business things. So, but I really like the magazine. So that was like literally pitching. The other one was so Condé Nast Traveler was I've read that for my, I don't know, not my whole life, but pretty much like I love the magazine. And I had a writer here in Austin and I was like, I love your work. I had been following her work for like several years. And I was like, you're in Austin. Can we meet up? And she was like, sure. And I had written for Afar and a few other places by then. And we talked about it. And she was like, we just got along. We had similar experiences. And she ended up recommending me for something. So I got recommended from making that connection, but I also pitched them stuff. So from getting that recommendation, then I was learning more about the pitching process with them and getting more ideas. So then I was like, great, now I have this regular kind of like update. It's like the Austin guide stuff. And then just sending them pitches. Like they know me. I've got this kind of relationship with them. And I had already written for Afar, which I had pitched a ton of times to get articles in there. So I had that idea of what's a good pitch for these higher end magazines. How should I kind of like organize this? And then Forbes was an editor. So I had an editor that I worked with. I really liked working with her. She ended up moving to Forbes and she was like, hey, do you want to write this stuff? And I was like, sure. And so for me, it's like a big mix between I had already been pitching, I had already been sending stuff out, I had stuff in other magazines, and then I made some connections with people just doing good work. Like a lot of it comes down to that writer had read my work. So she could recommend me to CNT because she'd read my work, right?
Yeah.
And then that editor knew me. She knew I did good work. So then she could recommend me for something else. And then really working on those pitching skills is important when you're working with magazines.
Love it. So you actually did the work. You
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
put some
yeah,
sweat into
yeah.
it.
I put a lot of
Yeah.
tears into it too. Like I remember I
Yeah.
pitched Afar for forever. I pitched Afar so many ideas, so many follow-ups, and I finally figured it out. It took me, I don't remember how long it was. It was a long time. And I don't know how many articles are in there. It's not like a ton, maybe it's 4 or 5 or 3 or something. But that's something where that was a big process of me like crying about it and be like, I'm never gonna get it.
Yeah.
And it was just really working on the pitching skills. Pitching is a muscle.
Mm.
I was not good at it. I was not good at coming up with ideas. I was very much the writer who was like, what about this idea? And they're like, that's a book. And I'm like, oh, so it's like too wide. And I think just practicing those skills and really, I have always reached out to writers where I'm like, I admire your work. There's
Yeah.
a writer who is the Texas Monthly restaurant reviewer, Pat Sharp, for 900 years. And I was like, I love your work. I reached out to her on LinkedIn. I was like, I love your stuff. And I would read it. Every time her stuff came out, I would read it. I think that's like a good practice as a writer is I'm not expecting Pat Sharp to do anything. I wasn't expecting this other writer to do
Yeah.
anything, but I loved her work. And I was like, I just want to meet you and talk about your work and learn what you've done. And because it's really cool. And I think that interest then ends up maybe leading to stuff in the future, like this did for Condé Nast. But I think it's also you learn a lot of really tried and tested tips just from reaching out to people and being like, I love your work. Do you have any recommendations? Or I love this article. Like, how did you work on your word choice or descriptions or whatever?
That's so cool. That's so cool. I want to call out something is that you took interest in people in a genuine way. When you talked about the
Mhm.
writer who recommended you, you said something like that you knew each other for 7 years. And the editor who went to Forbes, who got the position at Forbes, you had worked with her, you had delivered good stuff to her. Clear you had a relationship before, and she knew that you would get stuff, good stuff, and done on time, make her job easier. And so she pulled you into the next place where she was, Forbes. And I feel like that's something, I feel like there's a lot of people who want a magic pill, a quick fix. And it's just, it's not, maybe you get lucky, but I think for a lot of us, me included, we had to put in the work. We had to use that muscle. We had to build those
Hmm.
relationships and connect with people in an authentic way.
Hmm.
And I think one of the most beautiful things, you know how psychologists say that the most beautiful sound to people is the sound of their own name. I think next to that, I think for a writer, it's I've read your article, I read your stuff, I listened to
Yep.
your podcast, I watched your
Yep.
video. That when you're a creator like we are, and how much goes into putting out something and how much vulnerability it takes to create something, to put it out in the world and wince and see how people are going to receive it. When you connect with someone in a way where you show that genuine, authentic interest in their craft
Mhm.
and what they create. That's how you do it. I feel like everybody needs to know that also on LinkedIn. I don't know if you, I'm sure you
Yes.
get pitches from people trying to sell you
Yes.
things on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I'm just
Is
like,
the bane of
who
my
told
existence.
you?
Yeah, I'm like,
Right? Who
how did
told
you
you
even
this
find me?
work?
What is this? Yeah.
I know. That's just, that's not the way that you start
Yeah.
a relationship with someone. I love these things that you've shared.
I think it's that writer. I had followed her work for several years. I think it was two or
Mm.
three years. I didn't know her until I met her there, but we it wasn't like an automatic thing where like she was like, I'm gonna recommend you. It was like we had built a relationship. We were talking to each other, like she had read my work. That was a long, I feel like the relationship thing is the long game. It's like I'm
Yeah.
not expecting anything. I just think your stuff is cool and I want to talk to you and this is interesting. Like I think feeding like your inner writing geek too of oh my god this is cool, tell me about it. I think that really helps your business. Even if it's like in the beginning you're like really interested in this thing, it does end up snowballing. And I feel like this is like one of those things, especially when we're talking about LinkedIn. I am very much, especially when you're building relationships, it should be from that genuine what you did is cool, or I saw this thing and what about this, rather than just like an email to someone, give me some advice, like about what, or I know a lot of people, this is like my kind of off pathway, but I know a lot of people are like, oh, just get on LinkedIn and build a relationship with someone for 2 weeks and then ask about work. And to me, that's, if you want work, just ask for the work. Go in for the ask. Start from
Mhm.
a genuine, transparent place and just be like, hi, do you need help? I would love to help you. Just tell them, rather than secretly going around and being like, okay, I'm going to build this genuine relationship and then I'm going to
Yeah.
ask for the work. It's not, there's always, I feel like there's
Mm.
like an underlying current. Like it can't be genuine if your current
Yeah.
is like, when do I ask for the work? Just
Yes.
start from the beginning. I want some work. If you're reaching out to a client, just be like, hi, I want to work with you. Do you need help? Just be straightforward and transparent. That's a lot easier to then build a relationship. And with other writers, I feel like read their work. That's,
Yeah.
we start as readers. Like just like you said, is you don't read me a white paper, you read me a story, but we start as
Yeah.
readers. So
Yeah.
read people's work, find stuff that's
Yeah.
interesting, ask them questions rather than just reach out to randos and be like, hi, tell me some stuff. And I feel like that gets missed when people get in that panic stage. They're panicked about this and they're missing the part of, remember what was interesting about writing? Go do that. Go ask other people questions. Go be curious. Go do the research. Go read stuff and then take the next step of building a relationship, or just tell people you want work. Just be upfront about it. I want to work with you. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I feel like so many people want this formulaic, programmatic, plug and play solution. Like you said, okay, 2 weeks to pretend to be their friend and then go for the kill.
Yes.
And I feel
Yes.
like that's people can sense it. We're humans. I think
Oh
everything,
yeah.
like I'm
Yeah.
seeing like the through line with what you're sharing is just to be human again, be a writer
Yeah.
again, tell the
Be a
stories,
real
be curious.
person. Yeah.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird when I feel like I think when you get further in your career, like we have, you get these pitches like pretty much every day or at least every week where you're just like, why is this here? What
Right.
is this? This is hot garbage. But it's like early in your career, you're surrounded by silence, but it doesn't mean you can't connect with people on a human or writer level. It doesn't mean you can't, like I always recommend to my students is use your personality, go out there and talk to people, ask people questions, do ask the things that you're interested in, read their work, find examples you like and see where those have come from, what clients, what companies, like what are they doing. And I feel like there's like I think we lose a lot of that personality when we're like, oh, there's just like a magic formula. Like I will use this
Mm.
template and do this thing and it's very rigid. But freelance writing, like we've talked about, is a puzzle. Yes, there are templates, there are examples, there are things that we can do. There's definitely stuff that we can use as building blocks that people have tested for sure. But you have to be yourself. You still have to put your personality in there. You still have to figure out your clients. You still have to be a real person with people. You're not going to get on a
Yeah.
call and be like, okay, let me just read my script. Okay, cool. No one would do that. That'd be nuts.
I love it. I love it. You were talking earlier about these red light clients versus these green light clients. And I think there's so much gold and wisdom there because I feel like you've seen it. You've seen You get to kiss the frogs and you get the
Yep.
good clients too.
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit more about that, about what separates like one of these diamond clients versus these other ones that are just not aligned, that don't pay well, that sap your energy and just aren't good for your business?
Yeah. So the first thing is what we talked about earlier, which is like they're on different planets. They
Mm,
live different lives. They speak different languages. They can't have a conversation with each other. So that should tell you a lot where if you're getting a lot of red light clients, you're having the wrong conversation. Like whatever you're
mm,
saying on your LinkedIn website, client calls, we're on the wrong thing. So the other thing is you actually have to, I always talk about digging for diamond clients. You're not going to have diamond clients just show up.
mm.
They are something where you need to feed the marketing Tamagotchi. You need to track that data. The more you can know about your clients and the way you are writing that website and taking care of updating your LinkedIn copy and updating your website copy with more of the phrases that green light clients, like because you tracked them in your sheet. This is one of my green light clients. You know what they said. Put that in your copy. Then you will start attracting these better clients and repelling the red light ones. I feel like, too, this is like the diamond clients end up sticking out. Like they are
Mm.
the ones where you get on a call and they can tell you, we're creating this type of content for this type of audience with this goal. We're tracking it with these metrics. We know how things work. We value you. We know that things are being adjusted, but we want a long-term relationship with someone to work on this. Like they're in the trenches of the content. They're not getting on a call where they like can't explain something, or they're like, someone told me to start a blog and you're
Oh
like,
dear.
oh god, it's 2025, oh god. And they're like very clear. They're clear about expectations. They're clear about a long-term partnership. They very much fit your personality and work style. They're like, hey, typically we do this and this, and you're like, sounds good. So if they typically use Slack and email and you're like, I use that all the time, sounds good. There's this very specific set of things. Like they're able to explain the project, they're able to tell you a budget, or they're able to say, hey, here's what we worked on before, or here's what we're thinking. They're able to talk about other projects in the pipeline. They're able to be very direct with you rather than beating around the bush. And I feel like a lot of times when I've been on calls with red light clients, it's like they're treating me like an employee, or they're like,
Mm.
convince me to hire you. I'm talking to 100 other writers, convince
Oh
me to hire
God.
you. I'm like, no, ew, no. Because like green light clients or diamond, like your diamond clients are like your best of best green light clients, right? So they're getting on there with the express purpose of finding the right writer for their brand. They're not trying to
Yeah.
interview a ton of people and then be like, we have six different options. Like they've done the research. They know what they're right. They looked at your clips, they found your website, or they responded to an LOI. They looked at something, they're like, hey, this could be the right person. And red light clients are very much, this is a job interview. Convince me to hire you. What would you say if I said this? And it's, I don't know. Like, why are you asking me that? And let's see. Oh, the other thing is that this is something that I noticed with red light clients is they often are like, I'm just going to talk at you and then you make some copy. And like that with
Oh,
no,
getting
they're
triggered.
like, yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're like, I'm just going to talk at you and then you figure it out. And you're like, what are we even doing here? And there's often like, this like I'll know it when I see it type of mindset, and it's just it's totally the opposite. I always have this, I had this in my own business but also with my students, is you immediately see the divergence. Like someone is
Mm.
like, we have $5,000, we want to do two white papers, does that work for you? And you can say yes or no. We want to build this long-term relationship, we have a case study we want to do per quarter, we have this other stuff going. Like they can clearly outline it. Hey, we're tracking these metrics. Success to us looks like 2,000 more subscribers, or success to us just looks like getting this content out regularly. There's very clear stuff. Red light clients are like just all over the place, and whatever in that red light client call, whatever dysfunction or whatever's happening, that will continue into the relationship. There's no magic like they signed the contract, gave you some
Mm.
money, now things change. There you will continually be on this roller coaster of them putting the onus on you. You're the writer, you figure it out. It only would take me 1 hour, it should take
Oh
you 30
God.
minutes. Or it's just it's very clear when you get on calls or you see how they work, when you're like, oh, this client's like actually telling me the shit. Like they're telling me the things I
Hmm.
need to know in order to price the project or the budget, or does this work? We're both in the NFL. We're not like one of us is in the Pee Wees and one of us is in the NFL. We're in the same league. Like we get each other.
Golden. Golden. I think you must have been spying on all the clients that I used to work with when I first started
Yep.
because
Yep.
All of those, my goodness, getting someone who knows what they want and
Mhm.
has it together. And yeah, it's okay if they have a couple questions and they lean on you for
Sure.
that, that
Sure.
input. But there is a stark difference with a client that knows what they want, that has a plan versus one that they don't know what they want. Or it's always I always would attract people that would come to me almost like too late. There
Yes.
was some kind of fundamental business issue happening in their company.
Hmm.
Maybe it was
Hmm.
operations, maybe it was customer service, maybe it was the product itself, the service itself, and they'd want to use whatever. Maybe they called it inbound marketing back in like what
Hmm.
2010 or something. That it
Yeah.
was, oh, I just need to do social media. It was they just kept thinking of what is my I want to say rival, but what is my competitor doing? And let me
Hmm.
just try to copy that and slap it on like a band-aid and fix things. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, you're setting me up to fail. You're
Oh, yeah.
absolutely setting me up to fail. And we can do all the blogs in the world and all the
Yeah.
downloads and all the things. But if we don't pop under the hood and figure out what is going on with your company, all the marketing in the world is not going to fix this
Right.
because people can see that this is not what we're saying it is. And
Right.
I think my personality, now that I've learned, ate way too much from the dumb dumb tree is myself.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
I think I realized that's not every business problem is not ours to solve. Because I
Right.
think before I would be like, let me help you. Let me help you get clarity. Let's talk about this tomorrow. And now I just realize now, if you're not, like you said, on the same league, mostly
Yeah.
speaking the same language, then we just have to say thank you and maybe we can reunite later when you have a clearer picture of what your goals are.
You don't
So
want to be
good.
riding that like broken pony. Like that
No,
pony is not going to work. That's the pony that's
no.
on the thing with the fair that's just going in a circle where you're like, didn't we just do this? What's happening?
I don't know what kind of bait I was using because I have attracted lots of those broken ponies. And I don't know if it's being too nice. I don't know if it's smiling too much, laughing too much, but yes,
I don't
something in
know.
my brand was telling those people, go to her, she can fix us. And there was just a lot of burnout from that. So that is
Yeah.
such good information.
I did that too, though. I did that like
Yeah.
I would be so overly willing to help, and I had to
Yeah.
work on people pleasing. But then I got to the
Mm.
same place as you, as like good marketing can't save a bad product. There's no
Yes.
amount of good marketing that can save a bad
Right.
product. And if you can't talk to your audience, you have nothing. If you can't actually talk to them in their own language and tell the story and be part of the conversation with them, it's over. So no matter how much I want to help you, or I want to people please my way, or I'm sure you've had this too. Like I've been paid some good money and I'm just
Yeah.
like, the money's not worth it. This is crazy. Like I have to
Yes.
leave. Yeah. There's this thing when I was like starting out, I was like, oh, if they just give me some money, like I can fix it. Like I can solve the problem. But then you get to a point where someone gives you 5 grand or 3 grand a month on a 3 to 6 month retainer. You're like, sweet, I've got some money. And then you
Yeah.
get halfway through that retainer and you're like, oh no, like this is not worth the money. This is causing me so many, I have an ulcer and a headache all the time. I can't do this. So like there's this thing that happens with red light clients where like I think that's what starts breaking that kind of barrier down to, I can't do this. Like even if I wanted to, I can't work with these types of clients. And then you start being like, I need these other clients. So some of us, me and sounds like you, we
Yeah.
we have to get to that point of, oh, like this is not going to work. Like we have to
Yeah.
do it ourselves, and then we have to see it break in front of our eyes to move on to the green light clients and the diamond clients.
So true. So good. You said something else when you were talking earlier about that they respect you or that they're taking you
Yes.
seriously or they appreciate you. And that is something that I think we need to highlight, double click
Mm-hmm.
on, bold, make
Mm-hmm.
bigger, because I
Yeah.
feel, and I don't know if it's a function of people's perception about freelance writers, other people's perception about I watched one of your videos about the myths of freelancing, and you were
Oh yeah.
talking about if you buy into these ideas that it's oversaturated and there's too many.
Oh
I
yeah.
think there's other people, our clients, our would-be clients, that maybe sometimes also believe that and they take us for granted or think that we're all in the Pee-wee division and
Yep.
that we are just busy bees and note
Yep.
takers and little robots and they just give us an order and we take it, we bring them back the
Yep.
order. And that is something that what you mentioned about being appreciated, being respected, that's a huge differentiator that I've experienced because
Yes.
I've been in many situations where they wanted to treat me like an employee or they
Yep.
wanted to just say, okay, that's fine. But my 18-year-old kid over here says that this is gonna work. And I'm like, okay,
Ah,
well
yeah.
get
And you're
Sunny to
like,
do it. You
you're like, how
know?
long has that 18-year-old kid? I've been working in this industry like longer than that kid has been alive. No, no, like,
Yes.
no.
That's so that's so good,
Yeah,
Mandy. Those are things that I think we all need to like
yeah,
our little punch list when we're evaluating a client because it is a
yeah,
mutual relationship. I feel
yeah.
like that dynamic, and that took a little bit for me to learn because I feel like when you're a W-2 employee, there is this power structure.
Yes.
My
Hmm.
boss, and then I'm please hire me, and they
Yeah,
hire you, and you got to
yeah,
do the right thing so you get good marks on your evaluation, where maybe you can get a
yep,
3% raise, and
yep.
they're definitely in control. Your employer is, and your clients are too. We do have bosses. They're all of our clients are our bosses, but I think it's different in that I feel like the level in a good situation, the playing field is more level where we are consultants, we can come and help them reach their goals, not that we are going to be just an order taker and then be
Yes.
held when they want to judge success, then we're in trouble if they didn't listen to
Yeah.
what we advised them.
Oh my God.
So,
Yeah. I feel like that too is part of the transition, like me leaving my full-time job and then starting the business. I think
mm,
one of the longest lessons that took me to learn was like you and your clients are equals. You are equal. If you
yes,
want to negotiate, if you
yes,
want to ask for more money, if you need a deadline extension, like you are 50-50 in this partnership. And most of the time, you should not be taking more than 50 to 70, maybe sometimes 80% if you're doing like messaging or strategy of responsibility for that project. Like most of the time it's 50 to 60 to 70% of responsibility. And when we start taking all the responsibility, then it becomes this huge like employee style relationship where you're no longer equals, like they're your boss, they're just telling you what to do, and like like if it doesn't work, now you're totally responsible, which makes no sense at all.
right.
Yeah.
So good. So good. I wanted to talk to you. You mentioned earlier about spreadsheets, and sometimes those might
Hmm.
be 1998, but that's okay.
I
1998 was
need
a
the
good
spreadsheet.
year.
Yeah. 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 I need the spreadsheet.
Yes. Can you talk to me about pitching, about feeding that marketing Tamagotchi? What are those systems that you use, that you advise your clients and your groups to? How do you use that? And how do you look at the data when and seeing like what data points tell you what to tweak to make those pipelines better?
Yeah. So I have two separate spreadsheets. One's for magazines and one's for LOIs because they're different things. But you should be tracking your revenue ranges for clients, like everything in your spreadsheet, right? You should have the contact, what their email is, where you reached out, the title of that person. You should have the revenue, like the current revenue or funding of every company, the niche that they're in, the types of projects that they work on, which you can see from their website. You can see it on social media too, and then any follow-ups or anything that you've done. And then you're going to go through that spreadsheet for your LOIs and be like, who's responding, right? So I like color
Mm,
coding. That makes it easy for me. So who's responding? And we make them yellow or orange. Okay, this is my typical response rate every month. And your response rate can be anywhere from 10 to 30%. That's what I've gotten with LOIs over 10 plus years. I think right now it's 8%. That's what I've been hearing from other writers and my students. Like it's around 8%, but 10, somewhere between 10 and 30 should be your response rate. And then you have a color code of here's all the people that responded. From that color code, who then became a client, right? We make them green. So yellow is who responded, green became a client. And now we know that our clients, like here's these three clients, they have between, this is how I did it. So my best clients I know make between 20 to 50 million. They're Series B and Series C startups. And I know that from the sheet telling me, like, here's who became a client. They have between 20 and 50 million in funding. And you're tracking those things so that you have, hey, like my LOI percentage is going down. Do I need to change the revenue range or maybe the niches that I'm targeting? but you have it all clear there. This is who didn't respond at all. Here's the yellow people who I'm going to follow up with. Here's the green people who became clients. And that way it's like a visual representation. And every month you have a new spreadsheet where you type all that out. And then I use Boomerang to follow up. So like anytime I need to
Mm.
follow up with a client, I just tell Boomerang, put this back in my inbox. You can use the Gmail feature, the snooze feature, but Boomerang lets you do it where it says, hey, if no reply, put this back in my inbox. So that really helps. Now, with magazines, what we're looking at is like the most of the time that's like, when did I send the pitch? What pitch was that? What magazine was it? What was the title, like the editor's title, because they can be all over the place. What was the email address? And then what other 5 to 10 magazines could I send this idea to? So that way, when you're sending these and you're like, okay, let me go back and look at all the pitches I sent this month, I can now see which ones were accepted, which ones they were like, hey, hold on a second, or something happened. And then I can go back and say, okay, out of these 50 pitches I sent, I'm going to resend these 12 to these other 5 to 10 magazines that I've already put in my spreadsheet. So it's easier for me to track like who's responding, where the ideas are, what stage the ideas are in, and then if I need to follow up, Boomerang that message. But I feel a lot of that is just this is stuff people should be tracking. Like you need to know how, like for me, the response rate of your LOIs is more significant than how to, like where, what stage do people become a client? Because that is something I can't control. I can
Mm.
control what I'm sending in my LOI. I can control who I'm sending it to, and I can control how many I send. And that gives me a better indicator of now that I know who's responding, I'm going to double down on that. Now I know who's becoming a dominant client. I'm going to double down on that. So now I'm able to keep iterating that data to then track things appropriately, but get closer and closer to that diamond, that Series B, Series C startup of 20 to 50 million or whoever your ideal client is. And magazines too, it's like when I write the pitch, I already have this, right? This took many years, but like I can think of other magazines. I'm like, oh, this would be a fit for these 3 magazines. So that way when I follow up, I don't have to like reinvent the wheel. I left myself a note of, okay, now that you did this, go send it to these people. It makes it a lot easier. And the spreadsheet is, I think you need that big picture view. I've had people do it in a Word doc. And I just feel like it's, you don't want to scan down, you want to scan across because then you
Yeah.
can see like all the matching colors and the numbers and you can keep like it's a lot easier to see visually that way.
Man, this is so good. So, so good, Mandy. I love this. And I think
Thank you.
this is
I
what we
try
need
to
to
be
be
as
doing.
detailed as possible. I'm trying to like
That's
my thing is like try to help people with like as specific as I could be.
yes, and we need more of that. We don't
Yeah.
need the theory. We need the
Yes.
application. We need the real
Yes.
life. We need the real, because everything, when you were talking about paying attention to the data in our business and letting it inform us and letting it
Yeah.
tell us what it needs,
Yes.
that's such a better use of our time. When we were talking about at the
Yes.
beginning, how everybody's saying, oh, freelance writing is dead and freelancing is going to go away and
Yeah.
all of these things. It's okay, but based on what data? Because if
Yes.
we look inside, if we're spending so much of our time paying attention to what everybody's saying, and if we just redirected that attention to us, to writing the notes to ourselves, like you said, I love that idea because
Yes.
I feel like a lot of us were juggling multiple things,
Yep.
multiple
Yep.
assignments or projects. So helping ourselves, being a good helper to ourselves by giving ourselves those notes on what to do next, using tools like Boomerang, and
Yes.
paying attention to the data, putting it, we're spending time, I feel like, on the wrong things.
Yes.
I'm all about feelings, and I feel like, all right, we want to punch a pillow, let's do it. Want to cry it
Yeah.
out, great.
Yeah.
And then we need
Yeah.
to bust out our spreadsheet
Yeah.
and do what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah. Without
Yeah.
this, without the spreadsheet, this is like why the, the spreadsheet came about after a while in my business, but
Mm.
it was like, I've gotten students and this always is like a reminder to me. I've had students who have been writing for 20 or 30 years. I've had students who have been getting legit referrals for 15 to 20 years like they have never marketed and now
Wow.
everything dries up. This is what happens. Like I love
Mm.
referrals, more referrals, all the referrals.
Yeah.
But there is a point in everybody's business. This I have seen this across too many businesses where that dries up, Without
Yes.
the spreadsheet, now what are we going to do? Even if you were getting referrals, we need that data. We need to know what to do, because once the referrals dry up, because they always do, there is always a point. Like I said, sometimes it's 30 years into someone's business and they're like, now I can't pay my bills and I'm screwed. But you have to have the information. And now we missed 30 years of data that would have made it really easy to go find a couple
Wow.
clients, right? So if we can learn, just write it down. Just write it down now, even if your business is referral based, because that will give you the tools, and do some light marketing, because if the referral thing
Yes.
dries up or the platforms die overnight, which they have many times, or something
Yes.
happens, you need to know how to actually do it. And that data, you can't get it back. Like, you have to do it
Mhm.
now. So that's always a reminder to me, is yes, is it annoying sometimes? Yes. Do I not want to do it? Yes. Is it a pain in the butt to color code and do all the math? And yes, but like, without it, you're not going to end up building this like ongoing ecosystem, great business that actually allows you to do things like dream vacations, or take more time off, or work with dream clients, and not run yourself in the ground. Like, you need that stuff. That's like the geeky stuff that people skip. That's really important.
Oh my gosh. When I was in doing, I think I took a financial accounting class, and I remember
Mm.
the professor was always like, you make what you measure. And I think I've heard
Ooh.
remixes like whatever gets measured is paid attention to or something. I'm going to
Yeah,
mess that
yeah,
one up. But
yeah.
it's so true, Mandy, what you're saying about
Yes.
pulling up our sleeves and doing the work and logging it in and paying attention. That's true if we're budgeting for our personal finances.
Yep.
It's true if we're trying to get healthier and paying attention to
Yep.
our movement and eating well, drinking water. I know you drink a lot of water and electrolytes
Yep.
and things. And I was like,
Yep.
I need to drink my water today. But
Yeah.
yeah, what we pay our attention to, there's a saying about, what we wherever our energy goes, energy flows or something,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
we
Wherever
pay
your
attention.
focus goes, yeah, your energy
Yes.
flows, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
Yep.
We have to be out of everybody else's business and into our own business and
Yeah.
thinking about what is actually working for us. I also
Yes.
appreciated when you were talking about the pitching being a muscle. And I think the
Yes.
marketing, and I know
It's a
pitching can be,
muscle.
yeah,
Yep.
all of it. The
Yep.
writing, us nerding out with other writers on like how
Yep.
they do their craft. We cannot sit idly on our laurels or past accomplishments
Yes.
because the
Yes.
world is changing. You were talking about that, about all the changes that we've weathered as an
Hmm.
industry, and it will
Yep.
continue to change. And so we have to
Hmm.
stay active and doing that work if we want to still be here. So,
I feel like that's a natural thing too, that writers, if writers could stop worrying so much about the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome and am I good enough, or if you could
mm,
stop worrying about that, you would see like how much you're needed. You would see
yes.
how much bad writing is out there and how much you're needed, and how much you can translate. Like, a lot of people get stuck, especially, I know you and I have similar backgrounds, where it's like we get stuck in creative, or we get stuck in
Mm,
journalism, or we get stuck
hmm.
in this format, but that format applies to so many things.
Yeah.
You just get lost, right? They're like, no, I want to be like a creative blah blah. You can do that, but you can apply that over here for this type of client. Like, you can do this same works, or pretty similar, and get paid money to do it. So instead of
Yeah.
getting like stuck here where you're like, I want to do this, you can start seeing the opportunities of like how much we're needed, and how much this was something I wrote down these stats where like it's like 60% of hiring managers, or oh no, it's 95% of hiring managers are going to hire more freelance writers over the next 2 to 5 years.
Mm,
And there was like this study that showed that top businesses thought of us as like the strategic edge. Like, we are the strategic edge that helps them innovate and come up with better ideas. And we actually boost morale. That was something that was really interesting, is like when they
wow.
bring in a freelancer, we boost morale of that company and the clients. Like, they get more excited. So we offer more than just like typing skills and ideas and building, like I said, like the marketing and the idea generation. Those are muscles. You build them up over time, but it's also like you can bring a lot of positive energy just to your clients. And that is a thing we forget about. We're just like, oh,
Mm,
like all I do is write this thing. No, no, we do a lot.
yeah. Speak. Yay. Here, here.
Yeah. Yeah,
This is so, Mandy, I have enjoyed this conversation so
me too.
much.
Me
Thank
too.
you for being so generous with the
Of
writing
course.
community, with my community, with all of the students that you serve. I know you have a masterclass coming up. I know you have a community. Can you tell us about some of those things? When is your masterclass? How can we be a part of it?
Sure. So it's in September. I have three, it's a live masterclass. So I have three different spots. It's on the 16th, September 16th, September 17th, and September 23rd. So if you go to mandyellis.com/masterclass, you can sign up. It's coming up in a few weeks. We're going to do a little workshopping in there too. So anytime I do a live class, I try to do some workshop stuff. So it's not writing stuff, it's like business stuff, workshopping, but we're going to do that. And that leads into my course that's opening up. So I have Freelance Writer Wealth Lab, which is my 12-week group coaching and course experience where we have twice weekly live Q&As. There are 7 in-depth modules that talk you through everything I've talked through today. Like they go through all the things and they help you get from really struggling to attract those diamond clients or work with those diamond clients and worrying about marketing and what do I do when and how to do that. And you're getting really to what like my students have done is hit 5-figure months and or work with dream clients or scale your business so that you're not spending so much time on the nitty gritty. Like I really try to help them with systems so they get their time back. So that's going to open up. You can go to mandyellis.com/wealth lab to check that out. But those two things are coming up in September. The Wealth Lab opens on the 16th, but that's the same day as the first free live masterclass. But yeah, those two things are coming up in September.
I love that. Talk about a powerful way to really think about where we take our businesses as we approach the end of the year, which I still can't even believe that
Oh
we're
my
already
gosh, yeah.
halfway. We're in the
Yeah.
second half. And then even into 2026, I think that timing is beautiful
Yes.
and really taking
Yes.
our business, yeah, to the
I'm
next
so
level.
glad you said that. I wanna the last thing we should mention is I think most writers, and this is what I've noticed in the data in my business, September through January, February is like my favorite marketing/client time of the year. That is my best time to plant seeds, to get new work and get paid in December for work that starts in January. And yes, okay, good. Because like sometimes I'm just like, I don't know about you, but my summers are either super busy or dead. July and August
Right.
for me is either super busy or dead. This year it was dead. I know that from my business. I'm not going to panic because I have the data. But September through January, February, sometimes March, that is like my favorite time to like beast mode, all the LOIs, the pitching, get the clients, because people are trying to finish their budget by
Hmm.
December. Like they're like, hey, if we don't use it, we're gonna lose it. So like
Right.
this is the time to get in there. Yeah, this is the time to do it.
Yay! I'm gonna have all the information in the show notes. I think, like you said, anybody can benefit from this, whether you're new to freelancing or you've been doing it for 20 years or more and maybe never had to market before and you need some
Yeah.
help with that. That sounds like such an exciting opportunity. Mandy, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for everything that you offer, all the positivity and energy that you give.
Oh,
It's been so cool having you on the show today.
well, I'm glad we got to talk, Ashley, and thanks for inviting me on. I just love talking about freelance writing. It's one of my geeky. I want to talk about it more. So I'm just glad that you and I got to talk about it more and express all our geekiness together.
Yes, there's not many places we can do that. Not everybody
Right.
understands this flavor of entrepreneurship. So
Yes.
it's so
Yes.
cool. Thank you
Yeah.
again, Mandy.
Thank you so much, Ashley.